here.
Good afternoon. I'm Secretary Tom Smith of the West Virginia DOT and would like to welcome you to the Wheeling Town Hall meeting for Governor Justice to talk about the Roads to Prosperity program. We're very fortunate to have a good group here today. I'd like to welcome miners from Murray Energy. For some of you that might wonder about some of the folks in the room, we have metropolitan planning organizations from all over the state. These are planning organizations that deal with transportation in our cities throughout the state. I think they're very interested in hearing some of the aspects of the program. What we're going to do is go ahead and get started. We're going to hear from some industry guests that we have here who have some things to say. I will make a few remarks. The governor is just landing and is en route, but we want to go ahead and start on time and be able to get moving along. We have an additional event in Weirton later tonight. So again, being respectful of your time, we want to go ahead and get started. I will say, by way of introduction, it's great to be here in Wheeling. We had the opportunity, a group of us got here a little bit earlier, and Gus Suede, our district engineer, and some of his folks took us on a tour of the Wheeling bridges. It's one of the projects on the list of expensive projects here, very expensive projects, $170 million at this point. And I can tell you, as I've said many times around the state, those bridges are crumbling before our eyes. And I'm a civil engineer, so I wanted to have a chance to see more about the bridges while I was here. I've driven over them back in the wintertime, but to be able to be underneath, and folks, we just have to get this work done. These bridges are literally crumbling before our eyes. A point that I've made many times is if we don't take the opportunity to get the work done now, particularly when we have rates that are attractive, bond rates that are attractive, it will cost more later. So you'll hear me talking a little bit more about that as we move along with the program. But first, what I'd like to do is recognize and introduce Chris Hamilton from the Business and Industry Council and have him get up and say a few remarks about what his organization views the road bond to be. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. As Tom indicated, I'm Chris Hamilton, actually a Wheeling native. Awful good to be back here. I am with the West Virginia Coal Association and the West Virginia Business and Industry Council. I understand we have some miners in the room, and they're obvious by their attire. How about a hand for these miners, these guys from Murray Energy here nearby? This is pretty much their demeanor, and it's an industry, it's a part of an industrial base that I've been involved with my entire life. And I tell you, nobody deserves more credit, more kudos than these guys and what they do on a daily basis. And it's a doggone shame what they've had to tolerate and go through here over the past 7 or 8 years, but they've survived it. And it's because of what they do every single day, 24/7, that we all enjoy all the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy as West Virginians and as Americans. How about a hand again? Murray Energy, thank you guys. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing us to use a little bit of your meeting in this forum here today on this issue. The other hat I wear is with the West Virginia Business and Industry Council. And that's an umbrella organization, trade association of most of the major business trade organizations within the state. The Coal Association's a founding member. The Natural Gas Association is a founding member. The Construction Association in the state is a founding member, as are the medical, the hospitals, the retailers, the automotive dealers, and the list goes on and on. We represent some 26 business and industrial categories that account for over 400,000 West Virginia workers. And that's the primary reason that we find ourselves in total support of this bond amendment that's before you on October 7th. We don't see a downside with this measure passing. All the revenue measures are already in place, so there will be absolutely, it's ironclad, no new fees, no new taxes, no levies of any kind. But we get our roads done, we get our bridges done. Representing a major business organization in the state as I do, when businesses look to relocate, when new businesses look at West Virginia as one of many regional and area places that they can relocate their business, as our neighbor businesses and homegrown businesses look to expand a little bit, infrastructure, roads, accessibilities right up there. Can we get the goods in and out? Can we get people to work in and out? Can we provide all the services? Quality of life, it's right up there with our educational system. It truly is. We have an opportunity by passing this bond to fix our roads, to accelerate the completion of necessary highway systems, roads, new and existing roads, without adding to anybody's personal liability or taxation. We're all about jobs, economic development, and infrastructure as the West Virginia Business and Industry Council. We honestly do not see a downside with this measure's passing. We are within a coalition with the teachers, all labor organizations, the United Mine Workers, the AFL-CIO, and with your prominent business organizations. It cuts across partisan politics. Republicans are for this, Democrats are for this, independents are for this. There's a Duke University study that indicates that for every $1 billion there's so many jobs created, and all that equals to about 48,000 new jobs that'll be created to do all this infrastructure work over the next couple of years right here in West Virginia. Think about that for a moment. 48,000 new jobs. I've looked at the study. I wholeheartedly embrace and agree with the study. Although I take a little exception with that 48,000, I think it's more like 46.5. We have no more than 12,000 working coal miners in the state of West Virginia right now today. And you've all seen and experienced that number be cut in half over the last 8 years by that last organization that's now out of town. 12,000 working miners. We have an opportunity to employ 4 times that number of people that's going to be working on this highway system and this necessary infrastructure. We have right now, a lot of you are probably aware, the absolute worst. We lead the country with the lowest workforce participation rate. It's right around 50% of all available people 18 years of age and older available for work. 1 out of 2 are not working today for a whole litany of reasons. And we all know, and we all personally probably experience the pitfalls, the negative consequences that we find when a person's out of work. All the social economic problems that are plaguing our industries, plaguing our society, we find when a person that starts with a high unemployment level. And when you have a higher workforce participation level, when you lead the nation in it, it's just unacceptable. We have an opportunity to change that, and it won't cost us a dime. All we have to do is get out and vote. Get out and vote. Early voting starts this Friday, believe it or not. The actual referendum is on October 7th. Again, on behalf of the West Virginia Business and Industry Council, on behalf of the West Virginia Coal Association, we wholeheartedly embrace this proposal, and we encourage your favorable support. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes with you here this afternoon.
Thank you, Chris. I was remiss a minute ago when I started because we were doing a little bit of shuffling there. What I do want to do now is ask all elected officials, local and state or otherwise elected officials, to please rise and be recognized. We always like to do that if we have elected officials in the room. Please rise. Thank you for attending today. Our next speaker is a fine partner with the West Virginia DOH. We rely on our private side partners, both our consulting industry and our contracting industry. And Mike Klauser is the Executive Director of the Contractors Association of West Virginia. And we will welcome Mike next to the mic to tell us a little bit more about this from their perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I am Mike Klauser. I'm with the Contractors Association of West Virginia. We represent about 425 members throughout the state who are building West Virginia, and I'm pleased to be with a number of our members who are here today. But before I start, Tom mentioned our elected officials here today. The reason we are here today is because of the vote they took to get us to this point. There are two major pieces of bills that were passed this year. One is to provide actual funding, and that is the dollars to repair our roads, repair our bridges, with the gas tax, with the D&B fees, and with the privilege tax on vehicles. And I can tell you that it is not easy for anyone to advocate tax increases. It is more difficult to vote to raise taxes. But the governor proposed this year, and the members of the West Virginia Senate and the West Virginia House, I took the needed vote, the courageous vote, to propel West Virginia forward. And the other reason we are here today, obviously, is to talk about amendment, the Better Roads, Roads to Prosperity Amendment, and what that means to the future of West Virginia. And as the Secretary mentioned, I'm very pleased to participate in the partnership that we have with the Department of Highways, with the Federal Highway Administration, to design and build our roads, our bridges, because, as Chris said, that is jobs. That is jobs for our industry, but most importantly, we look at it as jobs throughout the entire economy. When we have engineers working in the highway industry, when we have contractors and their employees working on the roads and bridges, that creates opportunities all across the area. Our members are buying trucks, they're buying cars, our members are going to shopping malls, they are participating with the grocers, they are taking their vacations here at this beautiful Oglebay Park, which we have the opportunity to be at today. So when the governor talks about 48,000 jobs, yes, those are immediate jobs that we could put throughout the economy, moving West Virginia forward. But that gives us an opportunity if we are expanding Coalfield Expressways, if we are fixing I-70 and making a safe roadway for people to travel in and around Northern Panhandle, when we are completing Corridor H through the middle parts of the state. If you listen to any economic development organization, they will tell you that one of the main points that a company looks at when moving into a state is a safe and modern transportation facility. And you've probably heard about Procter & Gamble building about a $1 billion facility in the Eastern Panhandle, creating thousands of jobs. Obviously, that would not have been there if we did not have I-81. If you look at Corridor H and the development that everyone thinks is going to occur when you open up that road from I-79 all the way to the Virginia line. When you look at the cracker plants and the Marcellus, certainly Northern Panhandle is a great beneficiary of that. But those companies have to have roads and they have to have bridges that are not posted so they can get their rigs in and out. So we see this as a great opportunity not only to create immediate jobs today, but to put West Virginia on a path forward that we can go out and market ourselves to manufacturing facilities, to businesses to come in and locate a facility here because they can get their products and their services move quickly and can move efficiently. And that will provide very much of a long downstream opportunity to create future jobs throughout the state of West Virginia. Certainly another aspect is safety, and you will hear that from Secretary Smith later. West Virginia, we are second in the nation in fatalities on our rural roads. And when you look at what the cost of that is, not only in terms of dollar-wise, but the pain and suffering of those people associated with an accident. If we can upgrade our roads and have safe bridges, certainly that is going to create a much greater quality of life for everybody within the state of West Virginia. Our members are very much in support of the Roads for Prosperity Amendment. As Chris said, early voting starts Friday, and Election Day is from 2 weeks from Saturday, I guess, October 7th. So it's hard to believe that in such a very short period of time, this issue has been passed by our legislature. The Senate passed it 34-0. The House of Delegates passed it by a vote of 90-8. So it has great bipartisan support statewide. I remember when our association would go to Washington to meet with Senator Byrd and look at funding. His comment was, well, you know, there is no Democratic road, there is no Republican pothole. A road is something that is there to move people, but it is there to create a better quality of life for all of us. And that's what we see for the Roads to Prosperity Amendment, a great opportunity to move this state forward, to create jobs, and to make sure that West Virginia postures itself to participate with other states in attracting new businesses in. Many of our members are working in Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, because of the lack of funding that we have had in West Virginia. So our goal is to bring our members home. Their goal is to bring their workers home, and it'll give them an opportunity to live and work here. Hopefully it's an opportunity to bring people into West Virginia to live and work here as well. So, Mr. Secretary, we're very appreciative of the opportunity to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Mike mentioned highway safety, and one of the really significant things this program does is it allows us to give the citizens of West Virginia the roads they need and deserve. That two-lane roads are, I should say it the other way, four-lane roadways are about twice as safe as two-lane roadways if you look at the statistics. And the governor recently opened the Route 10 Man to Logan section down in Logan County. That was known as one of the most dangerous highways in West Virginia. And now there's a wonderful new facility there that will be so much safer than what we had before. There's a number of projects on the list that we're going to be talking about today that are similar to that, where you're going to be providing ultra-modern types of four-lane expressways as an alternative to two-lane roadways that folks are driving on. I say all that as a way to introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Dale Lee. He represents the West Virginia Education Association. And I know from working with him in the past here that one of the things he's passionate about is keeping our students safe. And so I will ask Mr. Dale Lee to come forward and make his remarks, and you're going to hear about highway safety there.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here today with you. I'm Dale Lee. I'm the president of the West Virginia Education Association. I'm a high school special ed math teacher from Princeton Senior High School, and I'm on leave of absence to serve as president. And this is my 10th year as president of the association. The WVEA represents teachers, service professionals across the state. We are the oldest, we're 152 years old, and the largest teacher organization in the state of West Virginia. As Tom said, I come from this in a little different perspective from the others. because in the beginning of the year, and starting in August, I travel around the state to visit as many schools and many counties as I possibly can. I spent a week here in the Northern Panhandle going to Hancock County, Brooke County, and Ohio County schools. And one of the things that amazes me is, number one, how good our schools are, contrary to what the media will tell us they are. But more importantly, how much our teachers care about the kids across the state of West Virginia. And without question, anytime I travel and talk to a group of teachers, their number one concern is their kids, their students. Now, I'm going to ask you with a show of hands, can you show me how many of you have either children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren here in West Virginia? Great. Let me ask you this. Don't you agree with us that is the most important aspect, commodity, people that we have in the state of West Virginia is our kids? That's the way we believe as teachers. Then it breaks my heart, as it will yours, to know that there are places where the kids have to walk a mile to get to the bus because the road has been caved in now for a while, and the bus can't get to the original stop, and the parents have to bring them at least a mile away to catch the bus. It will break your heart, as it does mine, to know that there's a place in Fayette County where there's a bridge that the bus has to cross. And when the bus gets to the bridge, the bus stops, the students get off the bus, walk across the bridge, then the bus goes across the bridge, then the students get back on the bus. Folks, that is just unacceptable. That is unacceptable to all of us as West Virginians. And secondly, our educators have to travel those same roads. Now, I grew up in southern West Virginia. I'm a Wyoming County boy. And my daughter and I were going back to Wyoming County in May. And I traveled the same roads with my daughter that 40 years earlier I traveled as a high school student going to basketball and football games. Nothing had changed. He talked about a road from Man to Logan, and that was one of the most treacherous roads ever. It took 27 years to complete that road. Folks, we can't afford that. Now, our legislature did a great thing, and I know some of them may be shocked to hear me say that, but they really did a great thing in this session, and that they passed the funding so that we can pay for this bond. You will hear others say, well, why don't we just pay as we go? That's what we did for 27 years to build that stretch of road from Man to Logan. I'm assuming that most of you are homeowners, and some of you may have even built your house. Did you just build the living room first because that's all you could afford, and then a year later build the bedroom, and then a year later build the kitchen, and do that down the road? Or did you get a mortgage and build your house that way? Folks, this is, you'll hear different people say this is one of the most important votes that you'll take every election. You know, we're guilty of that ourselves as the WVEA. We say this is the most important election you'll face. But for the safety of our kids, this really is one of the most important votes that you will take. I don't want to have to go back to Fayette County and look at those kids and say, we really can't afford to build that bridge now. We really can't afford to build that bridge back yet. So in the wintertime in December, when it's snow and cold, you still have to get off that bus and you still have to walk across that bridge. You know, as an educator, I taught for 22 years before I became president. And it's one of the greatest professions that I know, because as teachers, we make a difference in kids' lives. But one of the saddest things that happens as a teacher is when we lose a student. And one of the last years that I was at Princeton, I was the graduation coordinator. About 3 weeks before graduation, We had a student that was traveling on one of the rural highways down in Mercer County, had an accident, was killed. That's one of the saddest things that you'll know, is when you have an empty seat at graduation because our roads weren't safe enough for these kids. You know, it is a great honor to represent teachers across the state. It's an even bigger honor to travel with groups who put our differences aside and even our politics aside in many ways to come up for what is best for the state of West Virginia. That's where we're coming from this at. You know, many times during the session, we're all at different sides of issues. But when it comes down to what is best for West Virginia, we put everything aside and say, let's do this for the good of West Virginia. That's why our association voted, my executive committee voted unanimously to support the bonds issue. Our students can't wait. Our students really can't wait. Now I'm going to ask you one more question. How many of you have children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren that are out of state and you would love to have them back in the state of West Virginia? Many of us do. You see, the only place that I traveled during the year was to the Eastern Panhandle that had a growth of enrollment. Everywhere else is having a decline in enrollment. And one of the reasons they asked me to speak last, I'm a coach, and I could either do the 1-minute timeout or the 10-minute halftime speech. So you got the halftime speech, but think about the jobs that this will create. Think about the opportunity to bring our kids back to the state of West Virginia. Wouldn't it be great if instead of just the Eastern Panhandle having a growth of enrollment, every county in the state of West Virginia had a growth of enrollment? As these maps show, there are jobs that can provide that all over the state of West Virginia. So I hear the buzzer, halftime's over. It's time for me to stand down. Thank you so much for everything and for caring enough to come out tonight or today for West Virginia.
Thank you, Dale. My job as Highway Commissioner at these town meetings is to be an educational resource to provide factual information to you all about the road bond program. And I'm going to give my 2-minute speech, and it'll also be part of the governor's introduction because the governor has arrived. What I'd like to say is that as we travel around and talk to folks, we get 3 questions, and those questions I think are a really good way to sum this up, but also to introduce the governor. The first question for the road bond is, will this require new taxes? The answer to that is absolutely not. Those taxes are in place. You've already heard that a number of times. The second question that comes up frequently is, what is in this for me? And what I will say to you all is that we've really organized this well, I think. We've got a number of different parts to the program. We're here today to talk about the general obligation bond part of the program. But when you take all of the parts of the program together, you get the map that has 600 projects on it. All types of work on all types of systems. It's slips and slides and pipes and resurfacing and reconstruction and bridges and a few new starts. And so there's something really in this program for everyone. But then the final thing that comes up in that is to make sure that folks understand the way that the general obligation bond fits with that. And what I will say to you is the Highway Department has done a lot of extraordinarily good work to get a lot of work out quickly. It's been projects that were fairly simple to get out. We've gotten about $400 million worth of work leveraged out on the street with very few pennies in hand. And if you look on the pie chart over here, it's the upper corner, it's the mustard slice, the dark blue slice, and the light blue slice. That represents about $400 million worth of work that is things like interstate reconstruction and bridge replacement. But what I will tell you is the list of projects right here that the governor introduced at his State of the State address back in February are the very expensive projects that will be funded by the bond program. These projects are a mixture of preservation and new starts. I think the single best preservation project, but it really makes the point about why these are so vital to be a part of the GO bond, are the Wheeling bridges. We just took a chance to tour those. Those are literally falling apart in front of your eyes. If you drive that, you'll see it. It just needs to be repaired that we need to get to. So the general obligation bond part of this really takes care of these very, very expensive projects. These projects are located all over the state. They're regionally important jobs. There's not one in every county, but every county is affected by these jobs. When you take the program at large, there is significant work in every county, but these very large projects, there's about 40 of them statewide, and they're really spread throughout the state, but they provide benefits to all citizens. Now, the really important last point I'll make here is that the big green slice of the pie over there is the general obligation bond part of this. And so the final question we get is what happens if the bond doesn't pass? Well, what I'll say to you is we have to do these very expensive projects. There's no question we have to do that. So the first thing that happens if the bond doesn't pass is we have an immediate missed opportunity for tremendous economic recovery. These are the projects that will have the largest job creation associated with them, so we miss that immediate opportunity. But we also have the added problem that we have to get to those projects, so we have to actually pull dollars back from the other types of systems that we'd be working on, where we would like to use those dollars to fix more local roads to actually work on the larger roads. We would miss an ideal time for bonding. Rates are very attractive now. Any index of construction cost is much greater than the 3.5% or so that we think we would get there.
You have talked long enough.
So, with that, I think the thing to do is to say that this is a historic program. This is the architect of that program, and he's anxious to tell you about it. And I'm happy to welcome the 36th governor of the state of West Virginia.
Tom, thank you. Yeah. Oh, bless y'all. Hey, guys. How y'all doing? Thank all y'all. Please sit, please. Sorry, sir. And thank all y'all, for being here. Gosh, it's a wonderful crowd, and again, I thank you, especially you guys. I mean, you guys are getting it done every day, and I know everybody else in the room is, but I really appreciate you coming. I'm gonna sit down, okay? I'm gonna come around here just a little bit, and first and foremost, if we have any delegates or senators, and I know we do because I've seen Delegate Storch here, but if y'all would stand and we could give them a great big round of applause, please, unless y'all have left. Oh, thank y'all so much. Well, let me say just this. You've heard people speak about the road bond referendum and all the positive things that it can bring us, and I'm sure you've heard all that, and I'm sure that that I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you want to ask, and I say to you, ask anything. Doesn't matter to me. But I would like to lead off by just saying just this, and that is, you've heard a lot of positive stuff, haven't you? I would just ask you just this one question. What if it doesn't pass? Just think, what if this doesn't pass? And I've not done this way before, but just stay with me just a second. And isn't that little rascal wonderful? I mean, in all honesty, isn't that a blessing? A blessing from God. I've got to tell you that, how I look forward to this like you can't imagine, but our daughter Jill is going to have our first grandchild December the 4th. And so we're really, really, really excited to hear just that joy. And so, but let me go back. Let me just ask you a couple questions. What's the downside from a yes vote? What's the downside? First of all, whether you believe it or not, there is no new taxes. There couldn't be. The reason there couldn't be is we couldn't sell the bonds. If we had to go out in the world and say to people, that we're going to go out in the world and we're going to sell you a bond, and maybe, and what's the chances? Let's be real. What's the chances of raising taxes in the legislature in West Virginia? It's almost zero. You couldn't find somebody dumb enough to buy the bond. So that, you might as well just forget that. The buckets are in place. They're right there. What if it doesn't pass? Well, if it doesn't pass, you're going to go outside your house, and the road you're looking at is probably what you're going to be looking at. In addition to that, you know, we had a real sensitive issue, but we truly have an incredible deficit within our state today. Now, we're all hopeful that things are going to get better, but spending potential and spending hope is a difficult thing. And so if it doesn't happen, which is it's very likely not to happen, one thing that you can count on that will happen that quick, the dogs are gone. The dogs are gone. Now, Erica came running into my office and said, please, 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 and a lot of people, and at the end of the day, the dogs were gone. I saved the dogs. I won't be able to do that again. The next thing that'll happen is all the economic gain and benefit from our roads that we have plugged in, we plugged in $129 million. Well, if that leaves us, what are we going to do? Where are we going to turn? Is West Liberty going to close? Are we going to have to take more out of higher ed? Are we going to lose another high school or another school here or there? Along the way, in addition to all that, because it's going to have to take, we're going to have additional cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts. In addition to all that, your road's going to stay just like it is. I was in Man not long ago. We finished a corridor between Man and Route 10. And when we did, between Man and Logan, it was Route 10. 20 years. 20 years. Now, there's another thing that's going on up here in this neck of the woods, and it's this. You have people that just spew out vile for no reason, other than the fact that they want to be on the news or they want to be grandstanding. Now, think about this. The Senate, your Senate that you elect, voted 34-0 for the roads and for the package that we have in place. The House voted 90-8 with 2 absent. Now, you are hearing from a very vocal minority, a very, very, very vocal minority that, in my opinion, is so out there in left field that all they want to do is show off. Now, you've also heard this. You've heard that if we do the I-70 bridge or whatever it may be, that we're going to toll. Let me tell you, those people that talk that language are either talking for some personal hidden agenda, but they are absolutely talking in a way that is damaging to our state. Now listen to me. I won't tell you anything but the truth. No one has ever mentioned to me the tolling of the I-70 bridge. There's no one that's ever mentioned to me that the absolute concrete, we're going to toll this. Now, anybody that had a brain in their head that wants to tell you the truth, I could tell you today, forevermore, forget the possibility of tolling anything. I could tell you that. But nobody that would be truthful would tell you that we are not ever in the history of the world going to toll anything. I can tell you without question, hands down, does Jim Justice believe there's going to be a need to toll anything else other than the turnpike that we have today? Jim Justice would tell you there is no need to toll anything. So please, let's get out of our minds and out of our heads that you're going to have to pay additional taxes. It's crazy. Or that you're going to have to worry about tolling. That's crazy. And I can tell you just this, if you do end up driving on the turnpike, or if there's a point in time, whenever it may be down the road, that there is another road tolled, you're going to have the ability to buy an $8 Easy Pass. If you don't ever drive on any roads in West Virginia, no roads, no bridges, anything in West Virginia, you don't need to buy the $8 Easy Pass. But if there is something that comes along and you're going to drive on a turnpike, for crying out loud, buy an $8 Easy Pass. It'll save you a lot of money. Now let me tell you, the last thing I'd say is just this. There may be some Democrats here, and you may be wondering, well, why did Justice switch to the Republican side? And I don't like that. And I'm not going to sit here because I've thought about this a bunch of times and everything, and I could go in detail why and why and why. But I would really like to just say this. It's high time for me to quit beating on the Democrats. Really, truly, when it got to crunch time, what happened was my own party, which I had no intention in the world whatsoever on this planet of ever switching parties. No, why would I do that? I mean, for crying out loud, first of all, go back to the ground zero. Why do I need to be your governor? Is there any part of the reason that I need to be your governor for me? Are you kidding me? Did I not have enough to do in my life? I mean, really and truly? You know, I'm doing it for $1, and I'm doing it, believe it or not, wholeheartedly for my love of our state. I don't need the ego or the status, or I sure don't need the money. I don't need any part of that. So why in the world would I, if I had this devious plan, run as a Democrat and switch to a Republican? All it's going to do is cause me more flack. Why would I do that? I didn't have a plan. But what I did is I worked my ever-loving hind end off to try to get you a budget passed that would have helped a lot of people. And we got right to crunch time, and then we had people dive in the ditch, and the people that were diving in the ditch were from my side. And then that caused others to dive in the ditch, and we ended up with a lot of people that we could have helped that we didn't help. Now, I'm all about one thing, and that's just this. You've got great Republicans, and you've got great Democrats, and you've got great independents. We all need to be great West Virginians, first and foremost. That's all there is to it. I'd ask you all this question. And if you answer this question this way, if I ask you, is it more important to you if you're a Democrat or a Republican or even an independent, if it's more important to you to win another seat for the Republicans or win another seat for the Democrats than it is to move our state forward, I think you're so far out in left field, it's unbelievable. It ought to be always more important to move our state forward than anything we do. Now listen to me when I say just this. You've got people here that are from Murray Energy. Now I want to tell you, I had never met Bob Murray in my life until probably, I don't know, it was maybe a week after the first session was over. And he ended up, maybe it was right at the end of our session. And he came and asked if he could come in and see me, and I said, of course. And he walked in, he's got an oxygen machine on him here. He's got a terminal illness, and he's 78 years old or something like that. And you know what he said to me? He said, I've got a plan of a way that I really, really need some help because I want to keep y'all working. Now, I'm going to tell you, whether you like Bob Murray, don't like Bob Murray in the world is your opinion, but I'm going to tell you my conversations with the man, You should, because just this, here's a man 78 years old. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money. You know what he said to me? He said, every week, my whole life, up until just not so distant, not so long ago, I always went into mines every week. And I found a stump to sit on that was lower than the miners that I was talking to, because I never wanted them to feel like that I was up here talking down to them. Now let me tell you, he's got his faults like all of us, but he cares. You care because you're here. Donald Trump cares about West Virginia, believe it or not, for whatever the reason. I can't pinpoint other than I really mean this. The man really likes me, and I really like him. I really like his family, and I wish him the best beyond belief, because beyond anything what we may think, he is our president. He is the president of our nation, and we want him to succeed in every way. At least I do. Now, I can also tell you this, that this is really bizarre too. There are so many things that are happening in West Virginia today, and there's so many things that are happening on the federal level that can be so beneficial to West Virginia, it would make your blooming head swim. Yesterday morning at 5:30, Rick Perry called me at my house. And I thought, well, boy, that's pretty odd and everything. And we went through all kinds of different stuff. You know, whether it be this natural gas manufacturing hub that's going to fall right in your lap, or whether it be a way to genuinely help the coal industry, or whether it be a way to have hardwood manufacturing or furniture manufacturing brought right back into West Virginia, or whether it be something else. These people are trying. Well, I thought, well, boy, that's pretty neat. Rick Perry calling, and he's called, we've talked a bunch of times, you know, but then, believe it or not, at 8 o'clock at my house. Now, President Trump, when he calls, he usually calls on my phone, but never has he called my house. But at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm in there just kind of getting ready in the bathroom and everything, just dinking around and everything. And I hear the phone ring, and I hear my wife yell, "Jam, Donald Trump's on the phone." And I thought, well, man, is this not something else? And so we talked for 30 minutes. We talked about everything coming or going. And then he said to me, as true as it could be, he said, "Now, I can't talk too loud. I don't want to mess my voice up. I've got to go deliver a real important speech to the UN." And I thought, well, what are you talking to me for? But the net of the whole thing is this is where it all starts. It all starts with the roads. You've got to get this garbage that people are spewing out of their mouths out of your minds. You got to get this fear out of your mind. If you want to fear something, fear what I just said. What if it doesn't pass? Where are we going to turn? What if we have another downturn in the coal industry? What if we have a downturn from the gas side? Where are we going to turn? It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And in all honesty, if the whole world blows up, most all of y'all may be okay. I'll be okay. But for the very people that the reason that you're here, they won't. And maybe a lot of these guys won't. You know, we really have an incredible opportunity. The roads are just the start. This state flourishes with 4 of the greatest seasons on the planet. It's within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population of the whole country. Well, that's the market, guys. And not only that, we abound in natural resources off the blooming planet. Think about it, coal and oil and gas and timber and water, and it just goes on and on. And then lastly, and I say it till I'm blue-green, the very treasure that we have here are these guys and you, our teachers. We're craftsmen. We're faith-based. We're good people. If you haven't read, and there's probably not a chance in the world that you have read, but there's a guy, his name is Anthony, is it Bourdain? He's on TV doing this crazy stuff all the time. And I don't watch him much, but I will from now on. There's an article in the Raleigh Register in the Beckley paper today, and I really would beg you, for every last one of you, to pull it up on the internet and read it. And he wrote it. And so many times people write about West Virginia, they write bad stuff. But it is fantastic. It tells how the fabric of who you are, and it tells just how good a people you really are. We know it. The outside world doesn't know it. But I love that man for what he wrote, and it's a long article, but boy, it is absolutely the best of the best. Raleigh Register, Beckley paper. Now, I'll answer any question that you choose to ask. Yes, sir.
The Charleston paper reported that there's an organized campaign against the bond issue. Do you know who's behind that?
I saw, the question was, is the Charleston paper reported there's an organized campaign against the bond issue. And I saw 3 people out back with a goat and a cow, but I can't figure anybody else out. Because there can't be anybody that, I hate to say it, but you got to be one dumb bunny to vote against this. That's all there is to it. You got to be out there on a vendetta to show yourself, or you got to be thinking as crazy as you could possibly think. That's how I see it. And you know me, I'm just going to tell you what I think, but really, look, I've said this over and over and over. I give the good Lord credit for everything in my life, but I give him extra credit for all the good ideas that I have, because I'm not smart enough to come up with these kind of ideas, and I'll take credit for the bad ones myself. But now just listen to me. The idea came to me way back in the primary, and here was the foundation of the idea. I said, there's only one way. Now there is, no matter what you think, there's only one way that I can see us have the ability to create immediate jobs. Now you got to have immediate jobs in this state today, or you got to absolutely just start cutting everything and cut the legs out from underneath everything, and then it's just who knows what's going to happen. It just could spiral into no man's land. Immediate jobs. What are we going to do? You're going to build a site out here and hope that somebody comes and puts a plant there? Or you're going to change a law and hope that somebody likes the change in the law and then somebody moves in here? Well, that's all build a field and they'll come. That's not immediate jobs. The only way you can have immediate jobs is roads. Every road job that Tom Smith, who as great as he may be, has on the books, if we could let them all tomorrow, we could turn them all into jobs tomorrow. All the ones that are engineered, all the environmental done and everything else, turn them all loose tomorrow. Then that creates an incredible amount of jobs, does it not? Unbelievable, that quick. It's the only thing you can do. And then you know what you can do? Here's what you can do. And this is what I thought about in the campaign. I said, how much is it going to cost to create a gigantic amount of money? I said, if I could get $125 from everybody in West Virginia, every living person in West Virginia, times 1.8 million people, it turned it into this amount of money, $200 million, $220 million. And then what I can do with that is I could put it into a 20 or 25-year bond, and I could turn it into a gigantic amount of money, and then they would put it back to what it discounted to what it is today, present value it and everything, and then they'd give me the money. And then I would turn and give the money to Tom and say, let the jobs. So what we did is just that. Now, we can't ask everybody to give $125, so we didn't do that. We did a little teeny bit on gas, and we changed the privilege from 5 to 6, and we turned and did the DMV fees, and then we turned over to the turnpike tolls and did the turnpike tolls, and we put them all in a bucket. And then we went to our finance people and said, take the buckets and go out in the world and see how much money you can get. And today, interest rates are really low. You get more money. And all of a sudden, that turns into $3 billion of money, a gigantic amount of money. We don't pay any more taxes. We don't do anything. And it turns into instant jobs. And you get your roads fixed, and you get your corridors done, and we're off and running. And here we go. And then the next question may turn around and be, well, what if, will all these jobs be West Virginian jobs? And I would say, I hope to the Lord above they are, but I know they can't be. They can't be. 48,000 new jobs? I mean, for crying out loud, are you kidding me? You know, they can't be. Today, can they? But every day that goes by, there'll be more and more and more and more of the percentage being West Virginians. Now, you know, you're right on the border of a bunch of states right here and everything, and so we're okay with other people coming. But the other flip side of it is this. We'll be getting, for other people coming, we'll be getting payroll taxes. We'll be getting, when they stop at the 7-Eleven and buy a big gulp, we'll get sales tax there. We'll get money when they go to Kroger's or they go to a motel or they buy gas or whatever it may be. Plus, we'll get a road. The other flip side of it is just maybe some of them will decide how great this place is and decide to live here in West Virginia. We need to amp up our tech schools and our community colleges and train more people. We need to cure this terrible drug epidemic. But won't it be a greatest day in the world in West Virginia, to have more jobs than we have people to fill the jobs? Wouldn't it be wonderful to say this? Grandma Edith wants to have a picnic this weekend. And her grandkids are in Charlotte or Denver or wherever because her kids had to leave to go get a job. And now here's the job. So maybe people can come home and maybe families can get put back together. There's every aspect of this in the world that is nothing but good stuff to me. Somebody else ask something if you choose. Yes, sir.
Is the West Virginia Jobs Act going to be included? And the contractors are allowed to bid. Are they going to have their wage water paid, West Virginia taxes paid? And then the other question is, it's nice to draw from Ohio and PA, but when those people go home, all their income tax goes with them. So that means they do pay taxes when they're here, but it doesn't stay. They just file a return, get 100%. Is there any provision in place that would give West Virginians to work first, like a tax, credit if you're a West Virginia worker on these jobs?
Tom, you got to answer this. Because I can answer it, but Tom will answer it better.
Well, what the governor has asked us to do is to make sure we're taking care of West Virginians first. And so he's asked the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Taxation, that's Woody Thrasher, Dave Hardy, and myself to work and get our folks really focusing on this and enforcing this more than ever. So we're looking at labor compliance. We're looking at making sure folks are complying with the West Virginia Jobs Act. That means that West Virginia workers get the first crack at this, that we try to identify workers first. He's asked us to give a good hard look at tax records and see if we have folks coming in with clean business records, with the idea that if they don't, then they won't get the jobs. And that effort's underway. It started several weeks ago. We have folks in the room here who are working on that even as I speak, and we're intending to do this right.
Let me just add just this. Why are we doing it? You know, a great friend of mine, Howard Burnett's here somewhere, and he said, a long, long, long time ago, George Washington said to Thomas Jefferson, which is Donald Trump's thing that he's preaching all over the place today. He said, There's not favorites when you're referring to nations. Well, in my book, even though, I know we're going to have some out-of-state people, but there's not favorites when you're referring to states with me. I want everything that we can possibly have for West Virginia, period. Somebody else has something. Yes, sir.
Governor, two-part question. The first is, what safeguards are in place to keep unethical contractors from gouging, from wasting the money, from putting it in their pockets instead of putting it to work? Are there safeguards, and are there punitive measures that will see them in jail? Second part of the question is, I look at this map over here, and I see virtually nothing for Marshall County, a little bit for Wetzel County, and a little bit for Ohio County. It's a major project, but the people in those counties drive secondary roads that are just ignored and ignored and ignored. What's going to happen with that? And to answer his question, you can put a privilege tax on people from out of state. When I was employed at Humphrey Mine, and I traveled into Pennsylvania and worked, I paid 1% to Perry Township on my wages directly. State could do that.
Well, I would, there's several parts here. Let me try the last thing real quick. I wouldn't be opposed to that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The $64 question that you got to get by 100 House members and 34 Senate members, before that rolls to me, and that's not an easy task. The other thing is, as far as the work in Ohio and Marshall County and those counties, I'd let Tom kind of talk here in just a second about that too, but I would like to say this, that Tom has tried as equitably as he possibly can, and he'll tell you this, to select sites and jobs and projects. Now, and do the big projects as well. Here's the thing that you don't realize, though, is this is just the start. As this thing moves forward, if I could give you a fast forward, of exactly what I think is going to happen, here's what's going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, this healthcare is back on the burner like crazy right now, but it seems like that dies and it just jumps right back and everything. But I think what's going to happen with the Trump administration is they're going to do tax reform, then they're going to try like crazy to do something in regard to health, and then your infrastructure program is going to roll out. Your infrastructure program won't become a reality probably for 1.5 years or 2 years. If we can really get going here, and then the infrastructure maybe even won't come out for, maybe it'll come out, but maybe it's 3 years in the making. There's just more. This is just the beginning. This isn't like we're going to do these jobs and that's all we're going to have money to do and it's over. You see, stay with me and just think about this. What are the payroll tax on 48,000 new jobs? If you put 50,000 on a job, well, the payroll tax are $200 million. Well, all that goes back into the general fund. That can spend back into education and all kinds of different things, vets, everything. Medicaid, whatever it may be, where we've got a shortfall. Then sales tax come right behind it. And for those West Virginians, then you've got income tax right behind that. And on and on and on and on and on, whether it be gas tax or whatever it may be. It becomes an incredible number, unbelievable number. Plus you're getting your roads, plus the fact that more people are moving in, plus you've got more tourism, plus you've got more manufacturing, on and on and on and on and on. Now, so what does that enable us to do? More jobs, more projects in Marshall, more projects in Ohio, whatever it may be. Now, Tom.
I think I heard two different questions there that I want to answer. The first question I want to answer is, the fact is you've got to look at all the parts of the governor's program. There's several different parts to it. All those parts taken together give you the 600 jobs. And what we would ask you to do is go to West Virginia DOT's website and just click on the big red button on the opening page. You can look at every job in every county, and you'll see there's a lot of different work, and it's funded out of different parts of this. Some out of the turnpike part, some out of the general obligation bond, some out of the Garvey. So you need to look at it all together, not break it into separate parts. So that's the first thing. There's something in this for everybody. The first question you asked was, what are the safeguards against gouging? What I'll say is Mike Clauser, who represents the Contractors Association of West Virginia, for many, many years, the basis of the highway program, over 100 years, has been competitive bidding. That as we have contractors come in and do competitive bidding, we think we're getting the best price for the public. We monitor the bids as they happen. We watch to make sure that we're not getting too many single bids. There's a number of different ways that we monitor this. But I'll end by saying that last Tuesday we had the single biggest letting in state history, which was the Garvey bonding part of the governor's program. We got wonderful bids. West Virginia contractors were well represented there. So we think we have ways to manage that, and I think it's a good question, but we're on it. Thank you.
Tom, come right around here. Come right around here. Could you stand up and just come right here too, please? And I'll let you be the judge of this, okay? Now look. You said, what's your name, sir?
Mike Fullerton.
Mike, okay. All right, now turn around here where everybody can see you, okay? Now look, you were concerned about gouging, and he should monitor that the very best, right?
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully, that's right.
I'd like to see an independent agency.
Okay, but he's, all right, move on around like you. But he's going to look after that on the front lines in the beginning the best, right? All right, now put your fist up here. Now look what's going to happen to him. Do you see that? I mean, that's what's going to happen to him if he doesn't do good, okay? All right, now you go sit down.
I have to say, every day's an adventure with the governor.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these jobs prioritized in the order that you plan on starting those and completing them in the state?
You have to answer that. I can't tell you that. And the other thing I could tell you, I want to tell you one other thing real quick. If you have a road, a job, and you know, my gosh, it's not on our list, and it's terrible, and somebody needs to come and look, then you need to be screaming bloody murder, and we'll come and look, okay? We will. We really will. And it may very well be able to be added to the whole scenario.
Yeah,
we really want that input. We really do.
Yeah, let me make that point that the governor just made again. If you know your district engineer, start there. If you're having trouble finding that, you can call our office in Charleston, at my office, 304-558-0444. I made the mistake of saying that on Hoppy, and we were swamped with calls, but I'll do it again here. 304-558-0444. If there's projects on the list that you wonder why they're there, we have a duty to explain that to you. If there's projects there that you say I can't understand why it's not on the list, we'd like to hear that too. What we did is we said if we had a big infusion of cash, what would be the best projects? We took our 6-year plan. Those are the projects that have bubbled to the top as the single best projects for safety.
Stop just a second. Look, a lot of the projects we have to go with because those are the ones that are on the 6-year plan and we have engineered today. You know, we have engineered or the environmental done today. So, I mean, we can't just do a project because we like to do the project because it'll take 3 years to get the stuff done or longer to be able to do the project. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we started with that and we said, let's go ahead and make those the ones that we push out first. Those are objective planning criteria. We also said that we wanted to get to some of these secondary off federal aid system roads. We asked our district engineers to identify those routes out there that they knew had a lot of traffic and that we could get to. Those are the roads we have a hard time getting to. This big program allows us to get to some of those and work on those. So I think that would be our answer, Governor.
Good enough. I'm gonna go with you because you're a lot prettier than he is.
I had a question about the Easy Pass. If we were to purchase an Easy Pass, you said it's $8. How many times do you get to use it back and forth before it expires, or is there a time limit expiration?
Listen, I love this answer. If you want to sit at the toll booth and just go back and forth 70 million times, you can do it, okay? it'll last a year. And then you can just blah, 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 all you want to do, okay? Okay? Okay. Now you, sir. You're a lot prettier than I am, but...
Every morning I wake up, I find out it can't be, and I simply do not understand if we only have 50% of the workforce available to work. Why can't we put the other 50% to work? Why can't every effort be made? Okay? These people pay taxes, or they will pay taxes. Some of them would get off of social assistance. So can you tell me why every effort cannot be made to help this 50%?
Well, I can't tell you why the effort hadn't been made. I can tell you that we will make a really concerted effort. I can't tell you that we're going to be able to bring everybody off whatever the situation that they may be in individually and bring them back to work, but I can tell you this, that a lot of people that out there have drifted into a lot of bad stuff, whether it be drugs or whatever it may be, because they lost hope. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. People want to do good in life. I mean, we're Americans, for crying out loud. They want to do good in life. And people aren't bad. Now, you know, there's some people out there that are lazy and all that kind of stuff, sure. But for the most part, people are good. And they just need to have hope. And then have knowing that, you know, just imagine this. In the coal fields today, you guys see it. You know, my son, who's running our coal operation, sees it. But, you know, we have, and I hope I don't get in trouble here, but we have a great many jobs that we have posted, you know, that people were making $16 or whatever an hour that are now making $30 an hour. And we can't even find the people. And you know what the neatest thing of all is, though? Is you drive through these communities that were just dying. They were dying on the vine. You know, these guys or ladies that are working now and making that kind of money are all making $100,000 a year. And the communities that were dying, there was nobody at the Dairy Queen, there was nobody at the car dealership, there was nobody in the stores, are coming back to life, and that's how it's supposed to work. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, and that's how it will work right here. This is the first step. We can't screw this up. Now look, I'd continue to answer your questions, but I've got to go to Weirton. And those people up there are mean. And so I got to go. But I can't ever thank you enough for coming out. I said it in the beginning, but I mean this. I really mean it. You got other things you want to do. But you know what? You care. So do I. And we're going to get there. God bless you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.